Hello, this is Bill Webb, aka Billy Indiana. Today I'm going to recap all the games that I played in March. A lot of them I played at Dice Tower West. So if you're curious to see what hit the table this month, stay tuned. All right, first off, in the month of March 2023, I was able to have 46 gameplays of 35 different games, 24 of which were new to me. Part of that was because I attended Dice Tower West at the beginning of the month, or I guess it was more kind of in the middle of the month of March, and got to play 16 games while I was there at Dice Tower West, and then just also playing quite a few games on BGA this last month. So I'm going to kind of recap them from least played to most played in reverse order, give you just a very brief overview of my thoughts about each game, and at the end tell you which ones I enjoyed the most. So starting off, one of the games that I played only once, and it was at Dice Tower West, and it's actually a prototype version, but it is Trailblazer, the Arizona Trail. And I backed Trailblazer, the John Muir Trail, and I'm excited to get that hopefully in the next month or so as it arrives from that crowdfunding project. But it was fun to play the second. I think there's going to be multiple trail games in the future. And this new one, the Arizona Trail, also has art by Andrew Bosley. I really enjoyed that game. It was a lot of fun. It isn't finalized version, and so it was kind of cool too to have the designer of the game actually be the one teaching us. And I was able to also play along with Allison from Better Half Reviews as one of the four players that was there. So that was a lot of fun too. Really enjoyed that game. Haven't played the John Muir Trail yet, just backed it, and I heard from what Dan Rice said that it's a bit different, but I'm excited to try that when it comes and really enjoyed Trailblazer, the Arizona Trail. Another one I played just once, and I guess they're also kind of in reverse alphabetical order here. I'm kind of glancing off my BGG list here. But the next one is Tiletum or however you pronounce it, from Board and Dice. Played that one at Dice Tower West as well. One of my friends already knew how to play it. It was with us. It was in the hot games area. He taught it to us, and I had a chance to play that one. A lot of things going on in Tiletum, someone tell me how you pronounce it. But I did enjoy it. It wasn't my favorite Board and Dice game that I played so far, although I've only played a handful, but I did enjoy it and would like to try it again. Next up, just one time, Tidal Blades Banner Festival. Played this one also at Dice Tower West. And Bryce and Allison from Better Half Reviews were there, and one of my friends from Camarillo, Sean, taught us the game. We had a good time playing. Not really the kind of game I tend to prefer. It was fine. I would be glad to play it again, but just okay for me. Next up, Thrones of Valeria, an interesting deck building game, or actually kind of more of a trick taking game. It's an interesting combination of card play. Again, not one that I really loved. There was quite a bit of interaction between the players in a way that just I never quite got a grasp on. Maybe it was just because we only played one time. It was okay, not necessarily one I'd be dying to go back to, but I'd be willing to play again. Next up, one that I do own and have played a few times, one of my favorites, and that is Teotihuacan City of Gods. This is another Board and Dice game, and as opposed to Tiletum, the very first time I played this one, I absolutely loved it and still really enjoy it. One of my favorite games. I love the dice movement around the board and how the pips on the dice are upgrading, and then how just all the little details of how you can go to the worship sets, the pips on the dice determine the quality of the play that you get depending on where you're at on the board, and how many dice you have there of your own, and how many dice are there from the other players in terms of how you earn rewards of either getting the spices, or I forget if it's cocoa or what that spice is, or whether you're getting the action with your own dice. Really love Teotihuacan. I'm excited for the upcoming crowdfunding deluxe version of it that's coming. I have everything with all the expansions, so I'm going to be looking at that crowdfunding project and trying to decide, do I want to just sell all the things that I have and then buy that? Do I want to just keep what I have and maybe buy an upgrade pack? I don't know what it's going to be. So I'm excited for it. But Teotihuacan City of Gods is one of my favorite games and one that I really enjoyed playing this month. Next up, another one that I own. It's new to me though, and it's Steam Up. And I just filmed an unboxing earlier this week and then had a chance to play it right after. Steam Up is a simple little game where you are collecting dim sum from the little baskets, and you're rotating the platform that all the dim sum baskets are on, and you're trying to move the different pieces of dim sum towards you and away from the other players. You're kind of keeping an eye on who's playing which dim sum, trying to collect which dim sum, and it's a collection process. So depending on which player board you choose, the different dim sum are worth a different number of points. So sometimes you want a lot of them, sometimes you only want a few of them. Then there's nice card play that when you take a card or play a card, that's when you get to rotate the little revolving disc. And then the dim sum pieces, like I said, depending on which character you're playing, they might have different values. There's also events that happen every round that can be good or bad, usually good. So interesting, very simple game. I enjoyed it. I don't know how often we'll come back to it. I could see this one being one that we would often introduce new people to the gaming hobby, just because it's so easy to learn and so beautiful. It didn't have a real great depth, but it was very cute, at least in my opinion. And I've only played it the one time. I do look forward to playing it again. It's just I'm not sure if it will be one that I just mainly keep for introducing people who aren't really that into games because it's simple and because it's really beautiful and kind of cute, or if it's one that I'll grow on me. So we'll see. Steam Up, A Feast of Dim Sum by Hot Banana Games. All right. Next up is one that I don't own and just played on BGA, and that is Space Base. John D. Clare, AEG, I believe. And Space Base is one that I've only played it twice, and I've won both times I've played. I think engine building just kind of comes naturally to me, and I think I also just got a little bit lucky both games. And I think there is a reasonable amount of luck that can come with that just based on what rolls. Obviously, you can try to choose the cards and buy the cards that are going to be most likely rolled the most often and build your engine that way, but you can never count on it. So it's a game that I enjoy, don't love. A lot of people really love Space Base, and it's just okay for me. So I would be happy to play it again. I don't think it's one I'll ever own, but it's fun to play on BGA, and if someone brought out the regular board game, I'd be happy to play it too. Next up was Similo, another one that I played on BGA. Never had played it before, and again, just played it one time like most of these games this month. And it's a little comparison game. You're trying to figure out, it's cooperative, of the clue that is given. You're either trying to decide if the clue that's given is similar or dissimilar from the other ones, and then you're ruling out different cards and trying to narrow it down to the one card. So it's an interesting game. It was fine. It'd be interesting to play with the actual cards and see how that goes. It was fine on BGA too. Not one that, again, I'd ever expect to own, but it was fine. Next up, Revive. Revive I actually don't own, but played a friend's copy at our board game night. It was really fun. I really want to get this one back to the table again. I enjoyed it a lot. I loved the card play. I loved the exploration out on the board and the way the points could be earned in a lot of different ways. Just so many little things. I love the player board and how you could clear things off to both gain advantages and the asymmetry there between the different player boards. Yeah, I really enjoyed everything about Revive. I want to explore it more. Only played it the one time. I think it's by Aporta Games. And yeah, just really excellent, pretty production. Really want to play that one again. Next up, Rebuilding Seattle, one that again I don't own, but I got a chance to play a few rounds of it. It's kind of a demo partial game at Dice Tower West. I was really excited about it because I have family, my daughter and her family that live up in Seattle, and we love going and visiting them. We've seen some of the famous sites and things up there, and it's just a really beautiful place. Love to visit there. And I thought, well, this will be fun. It's based on the fires and rebuilding Seattle after the fires. Kind of a not fun theme, I guess, but connected to what actually happened in Seattle and having that family connection. And it was fine. I enjoyed it. I would like to play the whole game, and I would like to play it after I maybe better understood. The teach was a little broken up. So I feel like if I could read the rules or have a little bit more thorough teach, I might enjoy it a little bit more. The quality of the components and such wasn't terrific in my opinion. It was just okay. So I'd like to try it again, Rebuilding Seattle. It was a good game. I think maybe with more players I would enjoy it more, but for now I would just say it's all right. Next one is one again that I do own, but I don't have it. I let a friend borrow it, and it is, I'll show you the playmat here. It is Oros, and this is the neoprene playmat. I forgot to take it to him when I gave him the game. But Oros is just a beautiful game of clashing these tectonic plates together and adjusting the board, interrupting volcanoes, and trying to ascend this ziggurat ascension path with your demigod by sending your workers or followers out to study and to go to the worship sites and to build those worship sites. And so you sort of are racing to get to the top of the ascension board to some degree, but just because you get there first doesn't mean you're going to win, because you earn points in a lot of different ways, just in part on that trail. And so it was really interesting to me. I've only played it a few times. I've played it solo, I've played it with 4 players, played it with 2 players and a bot, played it with 3 players. And it feels a little different at every player count. And I've only, played it that handful of times, but I really still enjoy the game. It's interesting to think about how the ziggurat path, you have to kind of decide, do you want to rush the end? Because you don't get a ton of points on that path. You get more of your points on the player board. And also just the timing. It was interesting to think, I've always thought about the timing of the tiles and how they move around, but it was interesting to think about the timing of when you might want to build and gain points in certain areas, and how you want to manipulate the worship tiles as you're moving them up and developing your abilities. I'm excited to play that one again. Oros was a lot of fun and one that I still enjoy after several plays. Next up, another one that I own, and that is Orleans, and got to play this at Dice Tower West, so I didn't actually play my own copy, but I really like this bag building game. I've only played it a couple of times, but every time I play it, it's like, man, I can't wait to play that again. And I know there's some luck in terms of what you draw out of the bag, and in fact, on the very last round, had I drawn the right combination of tiles, I was just one tile short, basically, of winning the game. And if I could have drawn one of 3 different tiles and won the game, and I didn't draw any of them. So there is that luck. And I had built my bag to be full of chips or tokens that I actually had a lot of them in there, but just didn't happen to draw them. So it kind of reminded me, this play of how I felt after playing Wonderland's War, and just there is that little bit of luck that I don't necessarily love, but so much else about the game I really do love. And so Orleans, this was an old game from TMG that's now defunct, but DLP, and I think maybe Capstone or another company is now producing that by Rainer Stockhausen, and really a great game. I look forward to playing it again in the future. Next one that I don't own but got to try at Dice Tower West is Orichalcum, and I believe it's Bruno Cathala, if I'm not mistaken. Really beautiful art, really interesting gameplay. We played it late at night, and I feel like we were all a little bit loopy and tired, and none of us had played it before, and I taught the game, but since I had never played it, I was just going off of a video I watched and the rules that I had read. And so there were a lot of little questions like, well, what about this specific example? What about that specific example? We had to kind of dig through the rules and find those, or figure out how we're going to deal with it. So it wasn't a smooth first play, but I would really like to play it again. I did like a lot about the game. It was late at night, so some of the details are a little bit hazy to me, but I would really like to try Orichalcum again. Next one on the list, one again I don't own, but it is Obsession. Played it on BGA, and playing it on BGA, didn't really care for it. And I would like to play it in person. I had the same experience with Agricola. I played Agricola on BGA recently and just didn't really enjoy it. So, but I don't know if it's because I didn't really understand the game well, and I'm trying to learn it by reading the rules online and not having the pieces in front of me and not having someone to ask questions to that has played the game before, because we don't generally play it live, we play it asynchronous, so it's not like I can just ask questions as we're playing like you can with your gaming group when it's live. So both games, Obsession and Agricola, I would love to play them again in person, see the actual components, have some conversation about the gameplay and the strategy as we're going through the game. So it was okay. I didn't dislike the game, but I know a lot of people really love it, and for me it was just meh in that BGA implementation or that BGA experience. And it felt like it was smooth enough on BGA. I didn't have any complaints about how BGA set it up. I don't know. I'd like to play the actual physical game to see how I like it. The theme has never really appealed to me, actually, but it seemed like an interesting way to implement a theme like that into a board game, so I'd like to try it again. But first impression, it was just okay. Another one that I played at Dice Tower West, and it was a prototype, and it's Nestlings. And Nestlings was a cute little game by Tangerine Games, and actually Allison from Better Half Reviews taught that to us. And I really enjoyed it. It's very simple, but it had a little bit of an engine building feel to it. And just felt like you're constantly gaining things, but you're also looking at what other people are doing and kind of taking things, a little bit of hate draft kind of feel to it, maybe a little bit of blocking in some ways that way. So, but there wasn't a lot of take that. It was, so you could really have a lot of good positive feedback throughout the game. but you did feel like it had to be strategic. So I know there's probably a few things that might change before it comes out. I believe it might be coming to a crowdfunding platform here sometime in the late spring, summer. So Nestling's beautiful art and really enjoyable gameplay. I had a lot of fun with it for the first play. Next up is Medici, not one that I own, but one we played at a game night recently, a Reiner Knizia game. And Medici, I played the dice game, which was fun. I've played the dice game quite a bit solo and quite a bit with my wife, but Medici playing with live personnel, I think we had 5 or 6, I forget, it might have been a 6-player game. I've never been very good at bidding games, and so I knew going in it's probably not going to be a highlight for me. But I did enjoy the game, though. I had some interesting twists in how you're bidding and how you're trying to decide when you're going to fill up your ship and if you're going to focus on, spices versus cloth, and try to figure out how you're going to manipulate that on the board to have the most at the end of each round and have the most at the end, but also trying to draft the cards in your bidding that have the most point value so you can earn those points each round for greatest point value. So lots of things to think about. I had a lot of fun with it. Being a bidding game, it's, again, probably not one that I would go out of my way to buy and own, but I would always be happy to play it. And that's kind of the way it is for most Reiner Knizia games. Some of them I just enjoy and would be happy to play. Some of them I just absolutely love. I haven't really found very many that I don't like, but I haven't honestly played that many, fairly new to the hobby. Next up, one that I do own, and that is Lost Ruins of Arnak. Hadn't played it in a while. I actually played it this last time on BGA. Kind of a smooth implementation on BGA. I enjoyed it. I didn't go back and read the rules to really understand or think about the strategy. I kind of just went with the flow, and it was an asynchronous play, and so I didn't play it very wisely, so I didn't score real well, but I had fun with it. It made me want to get it back to the table or play it again on BGA. And I always remember when I first played it those first few times when I first got the game, really enjoying it, but I was also learning Dune Imperium, and everyone was making that comparison at the time, and I enjoyed Dune Imperium so much more that I think this one kind of felt like it wasn't as fun because I was always making that comparison in my mind. And now just playing it again after quite some time and just getting it back on its own, sort of in a vacuum, so to speak, I really did enjoy it more than I remembered. And so I'm excited to get it back to the table again or play it again on BGA. I had a lot of fun with it. Lost Ruins of Arnak by CGE Games. Next up, a couple of card games were on tap when we were at Dice Tower West, and a friend that brought some of those card games and taught them to me. One is Lords of Scotland. Beautiful art in this game and a really interesting gameplay of card drafting and hand management and putting some cards face down and some face up, and you've got a couple of cards you're trying to sort of vie for and win at the end of each round, but there's actions on the cards you're placing face up. And so really interesting. Sometimes you can steal cards from the center aisle. Sometimes you can steal them from other players. Sometimes you can cancel a card from another player. Sometimes you can steal the ones from the market that you're trying to take those two from. So really interesting gameplay. I'd like to play it again. First impression, I didn't love it, but it was so unique, I'd love to play it again. So I didn't rush out to buy it necessarily, but art was really pretty and the gameplay very unique. One that I would like to try again. Next up, Joan of Arc, Orleans, Draw and Write. Got to play this one at Dice Tower West as well. They had I think it was actually not a prototype anymore. I think it was a finished version, but a demo table where they would teach you how to play. And I didn't enjoy it as much as Orleans. A few people that I talked to said they liked it more because it kind of takes a little bit less of the luck away. But it might have just been the group we were playing with. There was a lot of really slow players, and so it seemed like it took a long time for a roll and write game. And we were playing with 5 or 6. I think it was 5. So it might have just been that it just kind of dragged a little bit. I felt like it had a lot of promise, and I'd like to play it again. But first impressions, didn't like it as much as Orleans. And not dying to go pick it up. Before I played it, I thought, oh, this is what I'm buying. I'm sure I'll love it. And after playing, I'm like, maybe if it was a really deep sale, or maybe if I have a chance to play it again a couple times and see maybe with a 2, 3, 4 player count instead of that much. I don't know. I liked it, didn't love it, but I do want to try it again. So that was my first impression of Joan of Arc, Orleans, Draw and Write. Another one that I played, and I do own it and have played it a few times now, and that is Inheritors, a tiny little game by Ice Makes. It's also another card game that's really unique. And same friend that taught me Lords of Scotland taught me this one. I like this one a little bit better, and actually after the first play, I did right away go to Amazon and buy it. I think it's a little bit harder to find now. It is very unique in the style of play. There are certain cards you're trying to earn before other people, so there's a little bit of a race. You're also trying to put cards down in your own tableau in ascending order. and cards that you're playing out in this middle area, and you have to play them in a certain way. And when you play them, you can take cards, and then a lot of the cards that you play have such special functions. So Inheritor is a clever little game. Looking forward to trying it again. I've only played it 2 players so far, and I would like to play it with more than 2 to see how that feels. So Inheritor's a nice little one that I played. Another one that I played at Dice Tower West, and one that I got to get from the library and play there, been wanting to try it for a while, was the Guild of Merchant Explorers. And a lot of people have been talking about how much they love this game. I did enjoy it, and I would like to play it again, but I don't think I would buy it. So if I had the opportunity to play it, if it was a game night, I would like to play it again. And if someone invited me over to play it, I'd be happy to play it. I did enjoy it. It was a fun game, but it didn't do enough for me to say, hey, I want to add this to my collection. So it's kind of on that good but not great level for me. One that I would always be happy to play, but one that my collection's at the point now where I'm more focusing in on really either games that really speak to me or games that are older ones that I really want to try. So I've been collecting a lot of the older games and adding those to my collection so I can try those through trade and through the market, the flea market at Strategicon, and then the flea market at Dice Tower West. So kind of shifting, and I'm not as going after the new games, and I'm definitely not going after games to add to my collection if they're just good, in my opinion. Now, I know a lot of people love this game, but for me, I just enjoyed it but didn't love it. Next up, and played this one at Dice Tower West as well, and I own the base game, Furnace, and this one's by Arcane Wonders, I believe. Yeah, Arcane Wonders. And I really like this little engine builder. It's a quick, snappy game, and I got to play the what is it called? Interbellum expansion for this, and it added some kind of cool little things. There's a new row of cards that stayed out, but then there were these little tiles that went out on those cards that you were bidding for each round, and then there was these new tokens that had like an adjustable wheel, and on that adjustable wheel you could actually use it to give another bid, and you could spend coal to determine the value of that bid. So there was a few new twists and turns to that game. I don't know that I necessarily felt like it made Furnace better for me, but I did enjoy it. So I wouldn't, after just playing it once, I wouldn't say, hey, it's an expansion you just have to have, but I would like to have it, and I would always probably play with it if I had it. So Furnace was a lot of fun to play that again, especially with the Interbellum expansion. Next up, another game I own by Friedman Freeze. Fium. Got to play this one for the first time. I hadn't had a chance to play this one before. It's got an interesting combination of mechanisms. It's got a little bit of a Concordia feel where you're spinning cards down, then you can choose when you want to bring them back. But when you bring them back, you only bring back some of them unless you're willing to pay, and then you bring back others. There's a market of cards, but it doesn't just slide naturally. It's got an interesting mechanism that the other players that were at that end of the board were kind of managing, and I'm not sure I'd have to read the rules again. I'm not even sure I quite understood how that river flowed. But it changed which cards were going to be deleted from the river and which ones were sliding down. And a lot of the cards had just really crazy opportunities for scoring or for collecting. And as it was most of it was our first play, and so we're all kind of figuring it out. I would like to try it again. I had higher hopes for it because I love Concordia so much. And so after playing, I'm like, yeah, I want to play it again. I want to try a few new things, but it didn't strike me like Concordia did right off the bat. And I still love Concordia. I want to try this one again. I did enjoy it. And there were some really clever things that I would like to try to explore. But I'm not sure how often it'll come to the table, so we'll see. So Fium, another fun one that I got to try. All right. And let's see what comes next here on the list. Okay, another one that I played at Dice Tower West and don't own. Crusaders, Thy Will Be Done. And honestly, from the title, I was like, I'm not sure if I'm really interested in this. The thought of Crusaders just doesn't appeal to me. That part of history, seems like kind of a dark period, but the game didn't feel like that at all. The game was very bright and vibrant. It was a deluxe edition that we got to play with out of the library at Dice Tower West, and it didn't feel like crusading. I'm not sure. I guess it kind of felt like any theme could have been tacked on, but I did like the gameplay. I liked the personal player board that you were trying to decide how you were going to work up on certain tracks to increase your abilities. I liked how out on the main player board you were moving and you could kind of beat people to certain spots, but we would just play 2-player. It'd be interesting to see what it felt like with 3 or 4 if you'd start to feel like a little more pinched in and maybe blocked off from certain areas. I really enjoyed it. I would love to try it again, and it was a beautiful deluxe edition of it. So Crusaders I Will Be Done really did surprise me as one that one's kind of on the border. I might be interested in putting that one in the collection, but I think I'd like to play it another time or two. But it was really fun. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Next up, Comic Hunters. They had it at Dice Tower West again in the hot games area, and I enjoyed it. I'm not really a comic book collector. I don't really know much about comics. I like that it had the Marvel theme. I'm pretty familiar with Marvel characters. The set collection was fun. The manipulation of the different sets and the different kind of drafting. Every round is a different style of drafting multiple times throughout the rounds. But that was clever. I know it's hard to get, and it was fun that they had it there in the hot games area so we could give it a try, and I did enjoy Comic Hunters. Next up, Cascadia, and this is one I hadn't played in a while, but we pulled out on a recent game night and just said, hey, let's just close off the night with a game of Cascadia, and it continues to be a game that I could just, it's like a comfort game for me. I've played it so many times now, I can just sit down and enjoy it and feel comfortable playing it. I don't know that I'm just always going to want to keep coming back to it because I've played it so much at this point, but I'm always happy to bring it out, and it is one that a lot of people could be taught because it's pretty easy to learn and it's really beautiful. So Cascadia by Flat Out Games and AEG, Randy Flynn design. Still really enjoying Cascadia. Next up, the Bottle Imp, a little card game that same friend who taught me all the other card games I've talked about. Another trick-taking game with such unique style. There's a card out in the middle and you're trying to figure out, you have to win. I think we just played it once and it was a few weeks ago, but it seemed like the card out in the middle, you had to play a card that was lower in value than that one. If you played over, you couldn't win. You could win the trick, but you couldn't win the card or something out. There were some really interesting things to think about that were very unique for trick-taking. And that kind of felt like if you got onto a little bit of a roll, depending on your hand, you could sort of dominate a particular round if you got dealt well, and you could sort of take control of it and time things just well. So it was a game about timing of when you want to take tricks. I like to play that one again. This is a cute little card game. I think it was by Stronghold Games, and I had fun with that, the Bottle Imp. And next up, I got to play Azul Queen's Garden at one of our recent game days with some friends. I've never been a huge Azul fan. It's fun. It's fine. I used to own it, gave it away to my daughter because she really liked it, and I was kind of tired of it. And I played it on BGA a few times, and it's okay. Queen's Garden for me was kind of the same feeling. It was different. It had a lot more things to think about. It didn't feel as intuitive to me, and I'm sure that's by design. So it took me a long time to kind of wrap my brain around just what was going to be advantageous to do. But again, I don't know, there's just something about the game that's like, I would happy to play it again. I'd like to try it again. But yeah, it felt kind of like the other Azul where, yeah, it's fine. It's a nice game, but it just didn't ring a bell for me. Next up, Ark Nova. Ark Nova, I got to play this one, and actually right now playing it on BGA. And my wife and I played it a few times at our recent vacation. I guess I mentioned that last month, but Ark Nova continues to be a game that I really love by Capstone Games and Matthias Wigi. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. But yeah, I just love all the different combinations and thinking through how you want to time the decision of which action you're taking and which ones you're going to flip over, and when should you flip over the cards to their better side, and when should you get extra workers so you can do more association actions, and how to move up on both sides of the track to get your conservation points, and then your, I forget what it's like, popularity, I forget what it's called, points. So really still loving Ark Nova. And that one is one that I, again, just played one time, and actually that, yeah, I guess it was just on BGA. Next up, now finally to a few games that I played more than once. The next one is Railroad Inc. We played the Deep Blue Edition with the River. It was on BGA again. Played it a couple times. First time I didn't really read the rules or anything, just tried to kind of figure it out as I went, and then I realized I don't know what I'm doing. So the rules are pretty simple, but I skimmed them over real quick and like, okay, now I know what I'm doing. Played it again and did much better the second time, and enjoyed it a little bit more than once you understand what you're doing. Again, it's not one that I would probably go back to. I think I'd probably rather just play it on BGA rather than the actual roll and write. I know a lot of people love it as kind of a filler game. It was okay. I enjoyed it, but I think I'd probably just rather play it on BGA if I was going to play it. Next up was Next Station London. Played this one a couple times on BGA as well. And I actually like this one a little bit better. I think if I had this one as a roll and write, I'd probably enjoy it a little bit more than Railroad Inc., for example. But I really like playing it on BGA too. I don't think it's one I'll hurry out and buy because it's so easy to play on BGA. You can go through your turns pretty snappy. I like the way that every time you're trying to build a different route and there's so many different ways to score. The first time I played it, same kind of thing. I skimmed over the rules and kind of knew some of the basics, but I was missing out on some of the things that actually helped you score well. And so last time I actually did quite a bit better and felt better about the game, and I would like to come back to that one again. Next Station London was a lot of fun. And then next up, we've got a new one that I played at Dice Tower West. Is one that I really wanted to play, and it's Acropolis. And since then, I've also played it on BGA, but played it with the actual game in person there at Dice Tower West. It kind of reminded me of Cascadia in the sense of trying to get those tiles laid out, and you kind of want them to be in certain patterns, like certain things you want to be together, certain things you want to be on the outer edge, certain things you want to be separate. And you also kind of like King Domino, where you had to get these stars out in there, because the more stars you had, that's how many points you score for each of the different color of tiles. So it was a really quick, easy game to learn, fun game, I thought. I enjoyed playing it with the actual game, enjoyed playing it on BGA. It's one's kind of, again, on that border of what I want to add it to my collection or not. I might. It's one of those simple games you could teach to a lot of different players. It kind of scratches the same itch as Cascadia and King Domino, which I both really enjoy. But I'm not sure I really would need it to replace those games. So yeah, I enjoy it. For now, I'll just keep playing it on BGA, I think, and we'll see. I may end up adding it to the collection at some point if I found a really good deal, but enjoyed Acropolis. Next up, I played Carcassonne a few times, and this is the big box that I own actually in person, but just played it on Steam a few times, just kind of killing time and kind of thinking, I haven't played Carcassonne in a long time, and I think we played it on BGA with one of the groups that I play with, and then I played it on Steam a couple more times just to like refresh my memory on the rules and enjoy it. And on Steam, you can play a game so quick. So Carcassonne is a little tile laying game. You're trying to build cities, connect roads, put out these, it's where the monks live, the monasteries, and then you're putting farmers in the field and scoring a bunch of different ways. Many of you probably played Carcassonne. I didn't play with any of the expansions or anything either time, but enjoyed the gameplay. Just kind of a reminder, that was the game that was early on in our collection that we got a lot of plays off back in the day. Next up is one that I never played, and I still haven't played in person, but they had a sale on it on Steam recently when they were announcing the launch of it, and that is Unmatched. And it seemed like the characters were from the Battle of Legends Volume 1, playing with those characters of Sinbad, and it's been a few weeks since I played it, but one day I played 3 or 4 games of it on Steam and just trying to figure out how to combo the cards. It's a very tactical game of knowing when to attack and retreat and how to use your assistant or whatever it's called, your kind of sidekick. And it's fine. I don't love head-to-head games. I enjoyed it actually playing against the computer probably more than I would against people. And so that's why it was worth it to me to go ahead and just get it on Steam at a pretty good price, and then I can explore with it and try the different characters. I think I only played Sinbad, if I remember correctly, but I played against, I think it was Little Red Riding Hood, and I can't remember who all the other ones were, but I played like 3 or 4 times on Steam and enjoyed that. Next up, another one that I don't own but have played several times in the last month, and that's Takenoko. And first I played it on BGA with some friends, and I was like, okay, I'm going to try to learn this real quick, so I watched a video, skimmed the rules, and then I thought, let me check it on Steam. I had actually got it in a bundle from Humble Games. A couple of years ago, they had this, if you contributed money to this cause for breast cancer research, then they gave you these codes for like 20 games on Steam. And it was one that I had just had there and I never played. So one thing nice about Steam is you started and it said, do you want to do the tutorial? Yeah, and it kind of walks you through the game and I learned how to play it. So I played it the one time on BGA, and then I played it a few times on Steam, and I enjoyed it okay. It disappointed me a little bit in how much luck there is. So it's a game that's really cute, and I think if you had the actual board game version of it, I think it would be maybe more of a draw because of that cute factor, especially if you have the big one with the big old pandas and the big pieces of bamboo. That would really draw people's attention in. It's a very light game, and it was fun, and it goes quick, and so the luck aspect of it's not that big a deal because it is a pretty quick game, and you might just as well have good luck as opposed to anybody else. So there is some strategy to it. It's not purely luck, but sometimes you can just pull the objective cards that you already met and just boom, 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 game's over and you've won. And so the couple times that I won against the computer, that was pretty much what happened, is played the game a certain number of times and then just started grabbing objective cards, and it just happened that I got like 3 objective cards in a row that were already fulfilled, and it was just, So yeah, that part of the game I was like, well, it's fine. I don't think I'd ever go out and buy that one either, but it looks cute and it's fine to play on Steam or BGA. So those were the 35 games, 24 new to me, 46 gameplays that I played in March 2023. So to wrap it up, what were my favorite plays of the month? Best old and best new. So the best game for me that was one returning to the table. The surprise for me was Lost Ruins of Arnak, like I mentioned before. I liked it more than I remembered getting it back to the table. But I would say still the best one for me getting back to the table, Teotihuacan. I really love this game, and playing it again just reminded me how much I enjoy it. So I really need to I haven't actually played this with my wife yet, so I need to get this one out. We have a spring break coming up in a week. I need to get this one out and see if it's a game she would enjoy or not. So Teotihuacan, my favorite game, getting back to the table in the months of March. And then favorite new game, I've gone back and forth with this in my head, and I'm going to give a slight edge to Revive, but Trailblazer, the Arizona Trail, was right there, and it was a prototype version, and so I feel like if it was finalized and all the rules were exactly set and all the pieces were, just right, I feel like maybe it would be, it's hard to say, they're just right neck and neck, both excellent games. And I really want to play them both again. So Revive and Trailblazer, the Arizona Trail, I'm just going to give it a tie. I can't really hardly pick one over the other. If I had to choose right now which one I'd want to play, I would have a hard time choosing because I really love both. So if you have a chance to play Revive, or when the Trailblazer, the Arizona Trail comes to crowdfunding, I think it's going to be this summer. Check it out. I know I will be excited to be backing that one. And I'm excited to get the Trailblazer John Muir Trail here soon, probably in the next month or so, from the previous crowdfunding project. So hopefully you enjoyed this video and hearing about the games that I played. Lots of games, so this is a little bit longer video than sometimes for these monthly reviews, but hopefully enjoyed hearing a little bit about them and what I enjoyed about them. If you've played any of these games, I'd love to hear your comments down below. What did you love about them? What do you not like about them? And what were your favorite gameplays in the month of March? I'd love to hear what got to the table at your household as well. As always, thanks for watching. This is Billy, Indiana, signing off.